So I started watching the newest season of King of the Hill. For a quick recap of what I thought of all the King of the Hill stuff that came before it, original run of the series, I think it's a great show. I absolutely love the early seasons. The mid seasons are also really good. I think once it kind of gets into double digit seasons, it drops off a bit, and that's where some more of the not so great episodes and pretty mid episodes start coming in. But still, overall, a really good show. Previous season, that was the first season of this revival, I thought was really good. Definitely felt like bringing King of the Hill into the modern age really well. There are some jokes where it kind of feels like shoehorning in modern pop culture references and modern lingo, but it didn't happen so much that it bothered me too much. And now we're at this new season, which has just started it, which dropped all 10 episodes at once. I just started watching. So I feel like this is a time where I need to say that I'm actually going to start doing TV reviews differently than I used to. And in order to explain why, I kind of have to go into a bit of backstory here. So if you've seen my Craig of the Creek reviews, the first season I was able to talk about every episode that came out that season and sort of give my individual thoughts on them, which I thought was a much better way for me to get my thoughts on the season as a whole across rather than just talking about this, trying to sum my thoughts on the season up in 15 to 20 minutes, which is what I ended up having to do for seasons 2 and 3 because my phone decided it didn't want to, was going to stop recording in the middle of my long discussion of those seasons, and I didn't feel like just starting over, so I just kind of threw my hands up and gave quick little 15-20 minute reviews of the season as a whole, trying to sum my thoughts up. And as a result, I don't think I got my thoughts across for those reviews that great. So I decided something new. I actually came up with a better idea, something I'm going to do instead. I'm going to actually record separate little mini reviews for each episode as I watch them, and I'm going to combine them all together into one big review when I'm done with the season. And I was originally just going to do this for Craig of the Creek, but then I decided, you know what? It could be fun to just do this for TV shows to talk about in general. So I decided that's exactly what I'm going to do. So when I started watching King of the Hill's new season, I literally just started watching it. That is why I'm literally going to record these as I watch through the episodes. So my thoughts are going to be very fresh and off the cuff. And if there's a thing I want to add later on to my thoughts, I'll kind of put it in as a little quick addendum, before the actual video comes out. So I'll actually be able to get, I think, more complete thoughts on each episode and the season as a whole out. And like I said, and I'm not gonna record these all at once like I used to, so maybe I won't look quite so I don't know, maybe disheveled, which I think I kind of do at the end of an hour 20-minute video whenever I record one of those. I've, as of recording this, I've only seen a few episodes, so let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on this new season of King of the Hill with episode 1. Alright, I would say this season's off to a good start. So I will say I don't know which of these I would call the A plot and the B plot, because the A plot, episode's kind of gets his name from the Hank Hill subplot, so I guess I'll call that the A plot. It's alright. It's kind of feels very standard King of the Hill, the boys getting upset about an electric, well, it's not the only reason they're upset. They're upset because it's been parked in front of Hank's house for days on end, but it is. They also managed to sneak in a lot of jokes about people who drive electric cars, which feel kind of these feel like jokes they could have easily made back when the show was airing back in its later seasons. They felt, I don't know, they weren't really particularly funny because they just feel like jokes that could have been made way back then. There are definitely funny moments in this episode, particularly in this part of the episode. Particularly, I like Peggy trying to figure out who owns the electric car by herself, going from thinking that the truck's parked in front of Hank's house because the owner was murdered to thinking it was a homicide. to thinking Boomhauer's like son or stepson somehow owns the truck. And I will admit, when she says, I managed to piece together who owns the truck, and literally she manages to piece it together because the person who owns the truck called her on the phone and said, hey, check out my new truck. It's parked in front of your house. And she's like, I cracked the case. I know. Like, that was pretty funny. And there are also funny moments with Hank and the gang. Like, I liked when they're like, Hank's like, we need to escalate the situation. It's time to write a note. And they spend like hours trying to draft the perfect note to leave on the windshield, only to come up with the most basic, simple thing imaginable. That's all pretty funny, pretty typical Hank Hill. That was pretty fun. But it is kind of weird because like it seems like Hank's gonna turn around on electric cars by the end, because he's kind of noticing some of the cool features, like how if the owner's close to like 3 feet from the car, the doors open automatically. He's like, well, that could be helpful if you have your hands full of groceries and tools. And then the guys give him a weird look. He's like, never mind, electric cars suck. And I kind of thought by the end he was going to turn around, but he didn't. So I thought, okay, well, what was the point of him actually thinking the car was cool? Well, it's kind of a weird little line to include. But yeah, the highlight of this episode is definitely the speed plot with Bobby, Connie, and Chang. Like that. Like Bobby and Connie, when they got together at the end of the end of the previous season, I was like, okay, I'm interested to see where this is going. And yeah, they're like incredibly sweet here. All their scenes are very cute, very funny. And I I think having Chang, at first I was kind of weirded out by the fact that Chang is like so jealous of Connie that when he thinks Bobby's sous chef, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name at the moment. I'm very sorry, but like when he thinks Bobby's sous chef is the one dating Connie, he immediately fires him. Like, I don't know. At first, I was like, why does Chang care so much? I don't understand. He was kind of the one he kind of just walked away from Connie. That basically ended their relationship. So I'm not understanding. But like they do a surprisingly good job of actually making you understand why he cares. Like I didn't feel sad for him at all, but I was like, well, okay, I buy why you would be upset about someone else dating Connie. I didn't feel bad for you, but like you made me believe you care. So that's so closest I'll get to complimenting Chang, I'm sure. It is a little weird that like when Bobby goes to complain to Ted Wasana that Chang fired the best employee in the restaurant, Ted's response is, okay, now Chang's going to take over that spot. And I'm like, that's just also going to tank. You're basically just replacing a bad replacement with another bad replacement. Like, your restaurant's still going to tank. I don't understand the logic of that decision. But like, still, this was the part of the episode I was laughing the hardest. It was the part where I cared the most about what was going on. Yeah, solid start to the season. I think this one's going to be... Am I going to rank these? Am I going to rank the episodes? Why not? What the heck? Let's rank the episodes of this season. I say this one's it's the only episode so far, but I think it's going to be pretty high once the final ranking of the season comes out. Okay, quick addendum for episode 1. Something I wanted to add that I forgot to mention earlier. When did Nancy start sleeping with John Redcorn again? I don't understand. Like, they stopped sleeping together like back in season 5 or 6 of the original run. And then they kind of sort of made jokes about it last season, but it was kind of more like, oh yeah, remember when they used to sleep together? Now apparently they're just full on sleeping together again. And I'm just like, I understand when that happened, when that started again, considering how adamant Nancy was about not starting it again in the original run. I just like, sometimes it's things like this that make me kind of wonder how familiar with the show, or at least specific events within the show, the writers of this revival are. Well, we already have an episode that surpasses episode 1. Yeah, episode 2 I think is better than episode 1, because I actually really like both of the plots in this. I guess I'll again call Hank's plot the A plot, and Yeah, I legit really like that one. The jokes involving the dog that Peggy wants to adopt are really funny. I like, and I think I like that when the boys see Hank with the dog, they name all these weird things about the dog, and they don't seem to care. But when they find out the dog is named his name's Caesar Salad, that's when they all break out laughing. Like that was pretty funny. And yeah, I do legit think it's a sweet ending when Hank starts caring for the dog, which it does make sense. Hank would start caring for the dog for Caesar Salad once he shows that he can actually be useful and like start barking at intruders. I do buy that's when Hank would start to care. And yeah, when he brings Caesar Salad to the graveyard at the end to meet Lady Bird, I think that was a really well done scene. The emotions were done very well. And I just love when he's like, all right, Lady Bird, if you're okay with me keeping this dog, do not come back to life. And then when Lady Bird obviously doesn't come back to life, it's like, well, that's settled. Like again, it manages to work in humor. I love when the show manages to work in good humor with good emotional moments. And yeah, the B plot I also think was done very well. Like it could have been annoying because it has stuff that like Con and Min being jerks to Bobby for like, well, because they don't think Bobby's good enough for Connie, but like we're like, well, we know he is. They're just being jerks. Like they managed to be funny mostly because of Bobby's reactions. Like when Min says, "Hey, bagman, get Connie's bags and be gone," and Bobby just goes, "She called me man. We're off to a good start." Like that was pretty funny though. And again, Bobby and Connie continue to be really sweet. The scene where they're like talking about how Connie like isn't really excited to see her parents since they're fighting all the time now because of after I guess things got worse since the divorce, and now they both just spend all their time bad mouthing the other. And then they talk on the phone about how Connie just really wants to be with Bobby. That whole scene was really sweet. That scene at the restaurant where Bobby has to like improvise a present for Connie and he sings this rendition of "I Want It That Way" was really sweet. Kind of reminded me a bit of Brooklyn Nine-Nine because of that whole scene. They did something with "I Want It That Way," but still I liked that scene. It was really sweet. And yeah, I actually did manage to start feeling bad for Con because he basically becomes it's kind of funny that he basically becomes Bill. Like once he moves in with Bill, all of a sudden Bill has much more like lust for life because he has a friend now, like someone he can like live with, and he says Con influenced me to like start caring again. And now Con is like depressed and he's like basically become Bill. It's like sad but also kind of funny. And I did legit care when like you could tell Con did want to like be a better like figure in Connie's life and want to just be the person who complains about his ex-wife all the time. You can tell he's like trying at least. And again, like that whole scene where Bobby like just basically schooled him in the bakery was great because Bobby's whole speech was good, and then when Con follows it up with, "This is how bad my life is now. I'm getting schooled by Bobby Hill." Like it's like again, it manages to make these characters being mean to this sweet guy very funny. Like good, like again, you can tell the writers of this are very talented in order to do that. So yeah, really good second episode. I'm really enjoying this season so far. I would say this episode is now ranked higher than episode 1. So top of the list of the season so far. Hey, I'm back already making an addendum to my previous episode's review. I realized I forgot to mention my one problem with the episode. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why Con and Min hate each other so much all of a sudden. Like, yeah, obviously they kind of fell out of love since the original run of the show ended, considering they got divorced between seasons 13 and 14. But, like, at least last season they could stand to be in the same room with each other enough to, like, fake going on double, triple dates with Hank and Peggy and like fake it during that anniversary dinner. Now all of a sudden they hate each other so much that Con isn't even able to live in the garage anymore. Now has to live with Bill, and they're just constantly always saying bad things about the other. feels a bit out of nowhere. Maybe they should have built that up a bit better last season, them gradually going from falling out of love to just outright hating each other like this. But yeah, still, that's a minor complaint. Still really enjoyed the episode. Alright, so I think this might be my favorite episode of not just the season so far, but of the entire King of the Hill revival so far. This was a really good one. I really liked this episode. Like, I think them doing the whole AI phone scam thing is like really relevant, and I do think it could be legit helpful for people who could fall victim to these things. I do find it, a lot of the jokes they make with it, very funny, like Hank wanting to go full vigilante, hunt the person down and kick their ass, and they're just like, Hank, most people do not find the fraudsters. The best you can do is prevent it from happening again. All the jokes with the class are pretty funny, especially with that one lady who Peggy's like convinced can't hear, but she like hears better than Hank and Peggy do. And I like the jokes that they make with, and I love like when Bobby tries to help Hank get his confidence back with that Sylvester Stallone scam. Like, that was pretty funny, but also wholesome. And I do also like the subplot with Bobby and Joseph in Mexico. Like, I thought it was going to be like, okay, so now Hank's going to be proven right about Bobby being irresponsible, and he's going to go with this person in Mexico to the mountains and get, like, kidnapped or something, or get, like, robbed. But no, I like how it turns out that, like, her saying, my mom owns a bed and breakfast, we can hook you up, and it turns out she actually does, and Bobby has a great time, I think is really funny. I do think it's a bit of a stretch, like, comparing Hank and Bobby to Bobby and Joseph. Like, I feel like there's a bit of a difference between Bobby not doing everything Hank wants him to do, and Joseph not paying the electric bill or forgetting his passport when it's literally in his lap. And also, I do think it's a bit out of line when Hank partially blames Bobby for him getting scammed, as if he wouldn't have been concerned about Bobby possibly being in a Mexican jail if Bobby were more responsible. Like, if Bobby did everything on your checklist, would you have been like, hold on a second, my son would not be in a Mexican jail, something seems off about this. Don't think so. I don't think so, Hank. But, like, still, like, this was overall a very enjoyable episode. Very funny, a lot of good character moments. Even, like, small moments like Bobby continuously flirting with Connie at the restaurant and resulting in her insisting he'd go to Mexico was pretty sweet and cute. And it was just a really good episode. Really enjoyed it. Best of the revival so far. Obviously, top of my ranking for the season. I forgot to mention kind of where I expected the episode to go. I kind of thought Hank was going to assume that Bobby was another scammer, so he was going to somehow use Dale to, like, track him down and, like, kick his ass, but then he was going to find out it was Bobby trying to help him, which would have led to, like, a bonding moment, but I guess then you wouldn't have felt as good with Hank getting his confidence back. I also forgot to mention, Hank pretty much going full Dale Gribble was really funny as well. Also, this might be a nitpick, but how are Connie's roommate and Joseph, like, so close that they're on a first name basis with each other? Like, we haven't seen Connie's roommate since last season when Connie tried to, like, get her and Bobby together. Now all of a sudden she's back and just not only on a first name basis with Joseph, but knows him well enough to understand what his, like, whole deal is. I don't know, it just seems a little bit out of left field. Alright, so I guess we're following up my favorite episode of the season so far with my least favorite episode of the season so far. I guess it's kind of full circle in a way. So this is a good episode. I just didn't really like it a lot. Like, okay, it's weird that Hank gets scammed in this episode when literally the last episode was about him getting scammed, but getting his confidence back after the fake scam Bobby does for him. But, like, I know Hank can be a bit rude at points, but, like, the lengths he, like, goes to this episode, it is like, okay, what is your problem? Like, again, I get that, like, at the end of the episode, he then comes around and, like, realizes he was wrong, but, like, the extent to which he just lays into people who just go to sci-fi conventions and, like, just enjoy cosplaying and meeting, like, meeting other people who like this stuff. Like, he legit considers parents who bring their children to these conventions abusive parents. Like, okay, calm down. It is, like, legit kind of rough. That whole scene was legit kind of rough to watch. Like, Hank is, like, being unreasonably mean. But, like, it is still nice at the end when he, like, learns to love that sci-fi movie that Paul Walter Hauser's character liked. It is kind of weird that the movie didn't have subtitles, considering it was all in the foreign alien language, but whatever. And I do like when he brings the axe to the convention that he made himself and everyone wants a picture with him, so they go to Bobby's truck to get the picture. That was a really sweet moment, and it does have funny moments too. Like, I like Dale sneaking into the convention as a fly, and the part with the guy literally dressed as David Tennant's eyebrows was pretty funny. And yeah, I just liked when Bobby under his breath called Hank a nerd. That was fun. That was just funny. And Peggy's subplot, I'm kind of mixed on. Like, it definitely has its moment. Like, I think there's an interesting idea here. Like, I kind of like how Peggy has her old musings where, like, she looks on the bright side of things, but then Min just looks at the negative side of things, and the contrast ends up really working. But, like, I think Peggy goes way too far in, like, ruining Min's date just so she can try and get Min to write for her, to write her poems again. And also, I feel like Min came to the conclusion that Peggy purposely sabotaged her date a bit too fast. Like, Min comes in after her date, all upset, says she doesn't want to talk about it, and then says Khan's an idiot. And Peggy then says, well, yeah, so how do you feel about Khan following you to the restaurant? And she goes, Khan, I didn't tell you Khan followed me to the restaurant. I feel like that's a pretty easy assumption for Peggy to make. Like, what else could you have been talking about? I feel like Min came to that conclusion just so we could, like, continue the plot. I don't know. And I'll do legit like the moment, though, where, like, Min has a throwaway line about how Khan has the slow cooker, so he's probably throwing soup parties over at Bill's. And then it turns out that he actually is throwing soup parties over at Bill's. I thought that was pretty funny. Honestly, I kind of wish we could get more of Khan and Bill living together, because it seems like they're actually kind of rubbing off on each other in a positive way. Like, we get a bit of it, but I kind of hope we get a full episode more about that some point in the season. Yeah, this one, it's a good episode, just probably easily my least favorite of the season so far. That was another good but not great episode. Easily my favorite parts of it were Hank being very enthusiastic about doing maintenance around the marriage retreat and Bobby acting like Gordon Ramsay. Those are both easily the most entertaining parts of the episode. I kind of feel like Peggy definitely overstepped. Usually I find Peggy's antics pretty funny, but I feel like she definitely overstepped her bounds with stepping in as the marriage counselor when Dale and Nancy were already doing a good job of that. Also, I did legit like the surprise that it turns out Hank was the one to reveal Nancy was having an affair with John Redcorn when me and my parents thought that it was definitely going to be Peggy who would reveal that. So that was kind of a funny twist, and yeah, of course, it leads to a nice Hank Hill whoa moment. So that was nice, and I do like. It is kind of weird. Like, I do like what they're trying to do. Like, again, it's the whole saying. Since it's a Christian marriage retreat, it's like in the Bible when it says you point out the needle in someone's eye or the splinter in someone's eye, but you miss the giant plank of wood in your own eye. I am paraphrasing. None of that's a quote from the Bible. No, that was obviously paraphrasing. So, but I like how they are so focused on what's wrong with Dale and Nancy's marriage, they kind of miss that they kind of have some problems as well, and I do like they actually address that. And I did think the ending with them trying to do, like, show that like not everybody's perfect, but it doesn't matter because you can still patch things up was sweet. And I do like that they let Nancy kind of end up helping with solve the problem with the boats in the end. Although I really did not. So basically, we had the original ending to the Nancy John Redcorn affair back in like season 5. Then there was the episode where she thought about restarting it, but ultimately didn't back in like season 10 or something. I was kind of annoyed by that, but whatever. At least she ultimately didn't go through with restarting the affair. And then back last season, apparently the affair actually did start up again. I don't know when or how that happened because they seemed pretty happy at the end of the original run, but whatever. And now they're ending the affair again. Like, it's like, how many times are we going to do this? Like, I kind of understand that most likely they were just going to keep it as a little gag in the background, but now they can't really use John Redcorn anymore because Jonathan Ross has sadly passed away. So, and I also get the feeling that was probably like old takes of him talking when the few lines he had in the episode. But like, yeah, I get what, and I guess also that the two kind of sort of subplots I set up for him last season about him taking on the horses so that him and Joseph could spend time together, and him and Hank and Peggy kind of sort of going into business together. I guess that all that's going to go nowhere now. Okay, whatever. But like, yeah, and Bobby's subplot is kind of weird too. Like, he's apparently not good on camera, which, like, I get he's not like a stand-up comedian like he was in the old days, but like, I feel like he's not even outside nowadays. He's like naturally charming enough that like I don't feel like he would have this much problem having a presence on camera. And also, I think everyone kind of overreacted to Bobby acting like a jerk just for the cameras. Like, they know how big of a deal it would be if he gets on the show, and they know it's an act, so they know he doesn't he's like just basically being mean to them for the sake of the show. I feel like after like he does one insult for each of them, and they immediately go, "All right, we hate you now, Bobby." I feel like that's a bit of an overreaction, but whatever. He gets on the show anyways, I guess. Yeah. So I definitely have my problems with this episode, but overall I still enjoyed it. I would put it between the Comic-Con episode and the episode at the start of the season about Bobby and Connie starting their relationship. Also, am I the only one who legit got kind of scared when Bobby just started freaking out after the TV crew left? Like, for a second I was actually kind of like, where is this going? Now, this episode is one of my favorites because it's the episode that almost confirms the Hank Hill autism theory. Autism rep, stay winning, baby! Okay, but like, but in all seriousness, this is actually a very good episode of this season. Like, it starts off kind of so basically, it kind of starts out the way you would expect, with Hank finding out that Peggy is going through menopause and having a very Hank Hill standoffish way of dealing with it, which is trying to avoid the subject. And when Peggy talks about how her mom had to go through it alone, his idea of helping her through it is getting her a book. Which, like, don't get me wrong, that's not a bad route for the episode. That would have been a bad route for the episode to go, but then throughout the episode, Hank actually shows to be very tentative towards her. Like, he fixes the air duct in their bedroom so that she gets more cold air. He researches the best type of bath to draw for her. He even goes to New Mexico and buys weed for her. Which, like, that Hank Hill, I couldn't imagine Hank Hill from the original run of the show ever doing that. But hey, like, it is honestly really sweet seeing that he would do something that he considers this immoral for Peggy. And like, yeah, again, and it does have some funny moments. Like, yeah, it is legit. Like, it is still funny when he kind of gets uncomfortable acknowledging things, even after he starts stepping up more. When he tries to figure out what's wrong with her, and he whispers, "Is it you're sensitive cleavage. Like, it's still just funny how squeamish Hank gets talking about this stuff. And yeah, the scene of Hank in the weed shop is like is like really funny. And also the side plot is surprisingly really good too. Like, at first it seems kind of stupid, like, oh, Bill's listening to advice that Con gives him, and I honestly thought that Dale and Boomhauer were going to be stupid enough to think that Con was trying to like turn Bill, if you know what I mean. But no, instead it's that Con is basically treating him like a dog. And again, it is funny the extreme lengths that they go to with this, like Con getting Bill to get the newspaper for him, taking him to the park, and like shaking a beer can full of pebbles when he doesn't want Bill to have another beer. But again, it ends in a surprisingly sweet way where it turns out Con was just like doing all of this to try and help Bill's confidence. Like, he gives him the toupee and the sweater because he just wants him to look confident for the ladies. He takes him to the park because it's secretly him taking Bill to go to the doctor's, and because Bill doesn't want to go to the doctor. Same reason why he's trying to get him to cut down on beer, because doctor says cut down on the beer. And like, yeah, and that ending scene where Con goes to move into his new apartment but then moves back into Bill's house under the guise of it's haunted. Like, again, it's funny but also really sweet. Like, I don't know. Like, this was a surprisingly sweet episode. I did say I wanted to see more of Bill and Con living together, and yeah, I got that here, and it was really sweet. Honestly, if I only had to think of a complaint, my only real complaint I can think of is just Bobby does have, this is like the one episode this season so far where Bobby has nothing to do. Like, he shows up for one scene where Peggy, right after Peggy first starts doing bad at golf, and basically he's just there to kind of establish Peggy's going through some mood swings at the moment. And yeah, he could have been written out of the episode, which is kind of crazy because every episode of this reboot so far, Bobby has had like a crucial, like a plot or a plot or a B plot. He's had some sort of crucial role, but here he could have been entirely written out, which is kind of nuts. But other than that, yeah, really good episode. Really enjoyed it. I'd put it between the Hank getting scammed episode and the episode where Hank gets a dog. So 2 episodes ago, some TV producer thought Bobby didn't have the right personality for TV. And now in this episode, we have Bobby running around as a mascot, doing all these impressive things and getting everyone all hyped. Okay, I think these episodes are written by people who didn't look at the other episodes that were being written. But in all seriousness, this was another really good episode. Like, when it starts out, you think it's going to be like one of the later season King of the Hill episodes where it's like just the gang gets into a kooky side project. In this case, Hank, Peggy, and Dale raising chickens. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? But then they end up like wrapping it around with this side plot of Boomhauer trying to bond with his kind of sort of adopted stepson, Luke Jr. Honestly, this from the beginning, this whole family thing has been kind of confusing. Like, at first it was just like, oh yeah, Boomhauer, I guess, is married now with a stepson. Alrighty, okay. But now apparently we didn't meet the person he actually married or was dating or whatever that entire season. Now we actually meet her, and I'm just sitting here like, how did these two get together in the first place? She doesn't seem like Boomhauer's type. Boomhauer doesn't seem like her type. How did this happen? And also, it kind of seems like they split up, but Boomhauer still gets like partial custody. Even though, again, last time we checked, they were living together. I guess they got divorced off screen, or were they never living, or broke up off screen, or were they never living together? And I'm just misremembering. I don't know, this whole family dynamic's kind of weird, but it does still result in a sweet subplot with Boomhauer actually bonding with Luke Jr. And I liked Luke Jr. kind of getting over his fears of all these different things and actually bonding with this one chicken who's like different from the others. And I like when Boomhauer stands up for Luke Jr. at the end, it's really funny that like Boomhauer gives this whole emotional speech that Luke Jr. manages to understand, but nobody else does. which is kind of funny because it's kind of a reverse of last season when Luke Jr. explicitly said he has no idea what Boomhauer's saying, which is pretty funny. But like, yeah, and even the subplot I think is pretty sweet. Is pretty sweet too. Like, I like the idea of Connie being a school mascot already is just for school credit already sounds funny, and like, yeah, and it is sweet when she does a bad job, but Bobby tries to offer some pointers and even like steps into the suit and is like, just watch what I do. At first I was like, but then at first when it seems like Connie's just taking advantage of him, I was kind of like, okay, this seems a little out of character for her to do. Like, I don't know. It's like, would she do this? I don't know. I'm not 100% on this. But again, they do wrap it around and make it work where like it's not about her just using him because she doesn't want to do it. It's more like she just doesn't want to fail because every other thing she wasn't good at, she just quit. But this time, Bobby kind of gives her the courage to go out there, and even though they both know she's not going to do good, she's going to still go out there because she made a commitment. And yeah, it is, again, this is both a very funny scene and also a heartwarming scene. And again, this subplot also has some pretty funny moments, like when Bobby's talking to his sous chef, and no, it's not Enrique. That's not Enrique. I know that. Sorry, I'm not blanking on the character's name, but I just like that scene. And when he says, "Once her finals are over, you'll be standing under her window with a boombox." Bobby's confused. He's like, "Well, that's what you white people do in the movies." Like, again, I do really like that character. I just am blanking on the name at the moment. But yeah, this was another really good episode. I put it between the last one where Peggy gets menopause and the one where Hank gets a dog. Well, we just had an episode where Bill actually came out on top and he actually gained confidence, and Con turned out to be a good roommate, helped him out, and actually turned out to have some sort of fond feelings towards him. Guess it only makes sense to by the laws of the universe. We now have to have an episode that shows how sad his life is. Again, haven't seen that before. Now it turns out he is so lonely and starved for physical affection and contact that he's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for therapy sessions just so people will cuddle with him. Like, ignoring the fact that he had friends who, like, he had an entire barbershop of friends who seemed to be pretty open to physical contact with him. I guess they have not been acknowledged since that episode last season where Bill pretended Peggy was his wife, so I guess they all cut off contact with him at some point because now Bill is lonely again. Oh, and also, Con hates Bill again now because as soon as Bill says he's going to a retreat that costs like $30,000, Con says that Bill's going to sell him his part of the house and he's going to completely change everything because Bill's not here to tell him what to do. Okay, I get that was like 2 episodes ago that Con would not move to a different apartment because he cared about Bill that much. But now all of a sudden he's like, oh, Bill's gone. I don't care. Let's completely change his house. Whatever. Alrighty. And let's also not forget about the fact that Bill literally just seemed to get his confidence in dating back, and now all of a sudden he's all mopey because no woman's ever gonna want to go out with someone like him. He's not confident. Did these episodes air out of order or something? Because this does not align with the episodes that the episode of Bill and Con we saw 2 episodes that came out like 2 episodes ago. Like, not to say this one's completely terrible. It has its funny moments, particularly Hank, Dale, and Boomhauer's reactions to all this. And yet Dale literally buying Bill's lawnmower for $50, and when Hank chastises him, Dale just goes, and yet you stood there and let me take advantage of him. Who's the real villain, Hank? Moments like that are funny, and I will admit the little pep talk they give Bill at the end in the style of football is like a football huddle was nice. But yeah, this was just, if you're not somehow not yet sick of them scraping the barrel of Bill's life is sad and miserable. This one will not sway you. Even like the B plot isn't very good. Like, normally I don't mind Peggy's arrogance. I don't think it's too bad, but I normally find it funny, mostly because it usually either only affects her or doesn't affect anybody, and it's just kind of her making funny jokes. Here, her arrogance literally gets in the way of Bobby's restaurant. Her arrogance causes a former student of hers to give the restaurant a bad review, and he's literally one of the top food critics in Dallas. So yeah, big surprise. Turns out that's not good. I don't get me wrong. I do kind of blame Bobby because, he literally didn't even have to tell Peggy there was a food critic there. He could have just kept his mouth shut, but he told her for some reason. But, that doesn't change the fact that what Peggy did is still undeniably a bad thing. She should have just listened to Bobby and left well enough alone. Oh my gosh. What is her, I don't know what her problem, this episode in particular, it's this and the episode where she messes with Min's love life just to get her to write good poetry. It's what is your problem, Peggy? Again, this has some funny moments too. I did find it pretty funny when she tried to drum up business for Bobby's restaurant by spinning a sign around outside, and someone down the road just shouts, "Take it off!" And even though it's another showing of Peggy can do no wrong, I did kind of like the ending where Peggy went back to the food critic's office and graded his essay right in front of him. But again, it was pretty funny seeing him realize how bad that essay actually was, and see her actually say, I was too harsh on this, and that's what encouraged, and she actually did legit the negative review that he wrote of Bobby's restaurant. It's well written. It's just she doesn't think he was being honest. And so that's what motivates him to go back. It's a nice ending, and yeah, and I do like that Peggy actually does own up to a mistake that she made at the end, even though it reminds me, oh yeah, that time she ruined Thanksgiving by stealing the turkey Bobby made because she's a psycho. But still, at least there are nice moments here. But even then, the worst moments of this episode, I would say don't top the worst, most unlikable moments of the Hank sci-fi convention episode. So this isn't the worst episode of the season still. I would ultimately put it between the Hank sci-fi convention episode and the Marriage Retreat episode. Well, the last episode had an A plot and a B plot that I didn't really like. So this one's a improvement in that this one, I at least like the B plot. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about that one first. Hank and the boys go fishing and they end up finding a cannon in the middle of the lake. Hank obviously wants to immediately donate it to a historical society, and Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer want to set it off. And yeah, I feel pretty much anybody would want to set it off, so it's not we're oh, they're so stupid, they're being so dumb. It's no, I feel most people would also do that. And yeah, it is pretty easy to predict it's gonna go wrong, but it is still pretty funny when you see exactly how it goes wrong. I did legit like the way they reincorporated Big Tex after his appearance back when Luann climbed inside of him during the whole propane protest thing from 5 or 10 seasons ago. And yeah, it is pretty funny the specific ways he gets destroyed, as the episode goes on. And yeah, the ending where Dale carved into the cannon Battle of Big Tex or whatever he carved in there, I thought that was a pretty nice moment. Now for the A plot. So we finally get Bobby on the cooking show they've basically been building up since last season, because that was when they first introduced it. We finally get him on the cooking show, and at first he's all confident, he thinks he's got this, but it turns out it's basically just a reality show where they care more about the personalities than the food. They even admit later on that the chef judge is making stuff up as he goes along, and even if they lose, they can get a nod of immunity if people like them enough. And they basically get Bobby and this other chef to fake a will they won't they romance, which like they definitely which like I definitely feel like these are the kinds of things that like they usually talk about with like if you're gonna fake a reality show, I feel like these are the kinds of things they figure out before they start filming the season, but they just this one they decide in the middle of filming for some reason, but whatever I guess. I did legit like the host. I thought he was pretty funny. At first, I thought he was Mike Tyson. He was like voiced by Mike Tyson because he sounds like him. But turns out that the chef that they have doing this is actually a real chef. Apparently, I was a bit surprised by that. I'd never heard of him. I just assumed it was a fake person they made up. But whatever. That's cool. He's pretty entertaining in this episode. He gets some good laughs. And I also like the way Bobby is able to like still do some impressive things with food, like when when it looks like their food looks like when him and his partners like meal is ruined, he's able to quickly save it by just heating up some rocks and cooking some meat on there and explaining and being able to tie it back into his German Japanese fusion cuisine. Like that, and yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. But of course, they do the thing with the oh no, this is the will they won't they thing fake or is it for real? And oh no, Connie gets super jealous. Like at the very least, she acknowledges that she knows it's fake when she just doesn't want to see him like kissing another woman. And yeah, it is pretty fun. Usually, I'm not a fan of bathroom humor, but like here, honestly, seeing Bobby like using a bidet and crying, saying it's not helping. Like, I can't lie, that was pretty dang funny, but like, and yeah, like it is, the message he gives at the end of the episode the speech he gives about Connie is pretty sweet, but at the same time, I am kind of like, do they not like edit these? Like, at first I was like, okay, is this live? Because none of this is being cut. But then no, like literally in the middle of Connie watching his big speech, Bobby shows up at her doorstep, and I'm like, wait, so they didn't edit this out? They didn't like kick him up? They didn't get security to kick him off the set and then just reshoot everything? It's a fake reality show anyway. Just kick him off and reshoot everything. Why did they include this in their episode? I don't understand how this reality show works. It's very confusing. Also, I feel like it's a little quick for Bobby and Connie to be moving in together. Like they literally just started dating at like the end of the last season, and it doesn't feel like a ton of time has passed. But still, again, it is a nice ending between the two, and yeah, I think that overall this is still a good episode. I did still like it. I'll put it between the first episode of the season and the episode about the marriage council retreat. Well, I think it's safe to say that they went out on a high note. Yeah, honestly, I think this is my new favorite episode of the season and of the King of the Hill revival. This was a really, really good one. So again, I think one of the questions that we all kind of had going in just from the previous season is just how in the world did Hank leave Strickland Propane? How in the world was he able to be convinced to go to Saudi Arabia? And why didn't he just go back to Strickland Propane when he was clearly so bored with retirement in the last season, when he clearly wanted to go back to work? Why didn't he just go back to Strickland? Well, this episode actually answers all of that. Like, I did kind of like how at first it seems like it's going to be just him and the old Propane gang catching up, but then we get the flashback actually explaining everything, and yeah, these are all really satisfying answers to all the questions we had about the last season. Like, I 100% understand why after all these years of after Buck finally steps down and he gives the job to Ray Roy, again, it actually is kind of funny that they actually, not only that they acknowledged he exists, but actually brought him back. Like, I did find it pretty funny that they bothered to bring him back, and yeah, I can understand why after that, and after Buck even admitted that without Hank being Ray Roy's assistant manager, he wouldn't trust him to pour piss out of a boot, even if there were instructions on it, his exact words. I can understand why after that, Hank would finally just get fed up and quit. And yeah, after Buck taking advantage of Hank for all these years, it's honestly really nice to see him finally stand up to Buck. It is a little weird because I thought Ray Roy ran a different Strickland propane in like a whole different state. And in this one, they say Ray Roy runs a different Strickland propane just across town. But whatever, that's a nitpick. And again, like after being that fed up with working at Strickland, like he even goes to work at Thatherton's, which again, by the way, speaking of characters I didn't expect to come back, I was not expecting them to bring back Jimmy Witchard for this revival. He was honestly shocking to see. And I'll admit, Hank basically having to work for him at Thatherton being the reason he just decides I'm done with this is honestly pretty funny. And yeah, again, based on the fact that Hank just can't find a job, not just involving propane, but just in general in the town in Arlen, and I can understand why he would get so fed up with all this that he just decides to move to Saudi Arabia. And again, he even says he gets to spread the love of propane to that country, which again, that totally does line up with why Hank would want to go there. Like again, all the reasons for Hank to go now make sense. And considering how ugly things were when he left Strickland Propane, I now get why he didn't go back in last season. I mean, it is a little shocking how him and Buck were just able to invest in that company together, and they didn't address this at all. But like, I mean, I guess Hank did say they had a silent agreement to just not acknowledge it, but I don't know. It feels like it would still be a little awkward to just be in the same room together and they're both like, yeah, this is fine, whatever. And yeah, Bobby, oh my gosh, I need to talk about Bobby this episode. He is done so well. Like at first, the introductory scene in the flashback, we finally get context to that gag earlier in the season when Bobby had the dyed pink hair. And oh my gosh, Hank's reaction to seeing it is amazing. And Bobby just being an angsty teenager about it, constantly whining whenever Hank objects to it. That scene was perfect. I absolutely loved that. Like, it's kind of weird that angsty teen thing drops and, like, literally the next scene Bobby's in and he just goes back to kind of being Bobby. But still, that's a nitpick because he is still very entertaining. And yeah, seeing him gain his love for cooking when he gets a job at Whataburger, which, by the way, the fact that he actually gets a job there because of the dyed hair, because the person interviewing him also loves BTS, and they both had the dyed hair and literally watched a concert during the interview. That was great. And yeah, there is something kind of funny about the fact that Bobby, at this point, was the only person with a job in the Hill household. And yeah, the whole conversation where Bobby says he can't go to Saudi Arabia because he knows what he wants to do with his life now. And Hank finally admitting that, and Hank saying that he's really proud of him. Yeah, again, that whole scene was great. Like, these are all the scenes here are really satisfying to see. And yeah, when Hank finally goes back, decides to help Strickland because they're going to close down, he tries to talk some sense into Buck, and he ultimately ends up taking the manager job from Ray Roy. Yeah, that final scene of Hank finally in charge of Strickland after all these years, like, not only is it satisfying, it's definitely going to be interesting seeing that going forward. Like, because this is definitely going to lead to some interesting storylines next season, I think. Are there any problems with the episode? They're pretty much nitpicks, like, just sort of like the absolute state that Strickland Propane is in when Hank sees it. Like this isn't just like, oh, it's gone down over the years. It literally looks like it should be condemned. Like, it is like pretty much like an abandoned building that Ray Roy's like passed out in. It's like, okay, there's a difference between not like kind of letting it go and literally letting it turn into this. Like, this place shouldn't even be open right now. It's crazy. And like, while it is cool to see some of the old characters from Strickland Propane back, like Joe Jack and Buddha Sack, I wasn't really a fan of Danny Trejo's performance as Enrique this episode. Like, it sounds like Danny Trejo is like on death's door, which I don't know if that's what he usually sounds like, but here he sounded particularly off. like at least the different voice actors for Dale and Con I've grown used to, but yeah, Danny Trehill's performance this season, I think I'm gonna have to get used to that if he keeps coming back next season. But yeah, really good episode. My favorite of the revival. Honestly, I'd probably rank it up there with some of the best of the original run too. Easily top of the list for this season. So I know that was the longest I've talked about an individual episode since doing this new review format for shows, but I still forgot I wanted to mention. Like earlier, before the season came out, there were rumors they were going to finally address what happened to Luann and Lucky. Well, this this episode was what you got. Bobby briefly mentions he can stay with Luann and Lucky while Hank and Peggy are in Saudi Arabia since he's still a minor, and that's it. Which, like, okay, on the one hand, I understand why they wouldn't want to actually feature them extensively in the season since both Brittany Murphy and Tom Petty have passed away. But on the other hand, I honestly would not have minded seeing. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing some like a brief spin-off, like some episodes where Bobby's living with them, because I think that would be pretty entertaining. But yeah, if they don't want to do that, out of respect for the voice actors, I would 100% understand. So yeah, that was season 15 of King of the Hill. Overall, I would say a definite improvement over the last season. Like, there are definitely some problems, like not every plot in this season's great, not every joke works, and there are still some voices that sound a bit off, like, you just kind of have to get used to them and not, like, it's not they get better, it's you get used to them. But still, like, the jokes that work definitely outweigh the ones that don't. The plots that work definitely outweigh the ones that don't. I think they kind of took everything that they were already kind of like. That last season was definitely them getting their footing again. This season is definitely them showing they're back on solid ground. And yeah, I am so excited for what the next season gives us. And I'm going to give King of the Hill season 15 an A-. So those are my thoughts on this season of King of the Hill. If you've seen it, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to see more reviews like this in the future. And on that note, I will see you next time. Have a great day.